Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. So happy to be here with you. Of course, I'm also happy to be here with Clay Trainum and Valer Shabilla. It's been a long time since we've had a two-match week and us recording on a Wednesday instead of actually on a Monday like we normally do. Um, how has your week/weekend been for the both of you? Has it been good?
Really busy for me. I was in Atlanta, as most patients would know probably. Went to the game, but before that, I was traveling to St. Louis. So came back home. I was in St. Louis from Monday to Thursday. Came back home Thursday night, pretty late. Went to sleep. Woke up Friday. Went to Atlanta. So uh, didn't spend a whole lot of time at home, but Atlanta's always nice. I have a good time every time I'm there. My favorite thing about Atlanta, I'll tell you this, is that when I go to a place, whether it's a bar or a restaurant, the music is everything I listened to from high school. And that just brings me so much happiness because when I go to places in Nashville, I just don't know the music often. And, it just changes the vibe completely. So that's my favorite thing about Atlanta. That's why I recommend going on an Atlanta trip if you are a Nashville fan. And then Mercedes-Benz Stadium, man. I have said this before on this show. I'll say it again. It is the best stadium I've ever been in. Like, it's just the not I don't care about the team playing or whatever. I'm just saying, like, as a venue, it's probably one of the best in the world. Definitely the best I've ever visited. Just as a venue.
And food and drinks are affordable there too, which is an even bigger bonus. Like,
Huge plus, huge
yeah,
plus, yeah, huge plus, yeah.
I used to live down there. I love it. I mean, I really do. I'm happy that there will be World Cup games played there because I think that that's a very good showpiece.
Oh, an easy trip to make as well. It'll always be one of those things to me too with the statistics that shows like the $4 food or whatever. They actually make more money than places like Geodis does charging, yet nobody follows suit. They see the statistics and they just don't want to do it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I did see some. So Rhode Island FC, USL Championship team, is they just built a brand new stadium. This week or last week was their home opener, and they are selling kids drinks for $2, beers for $4, and like hot dogs for $1 or something like that. So Rhode Island FC is the only one in America to follow suit.
Yes, absolutely. Like, look, as long as somebody is. Clay, you have a good weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I was sick for most of the weekend, so it was what it
There you
was.
go.
I just watched I watched the second to last match at Goodison Park, so starting to get very nostalgic about Everton's home for 133 years. So the last
Hmm.
match will be May 18th. It'll be at 6 a.m., which is just absolutely wonderful. Um, but yeah, it's all right. It's a good weekend.
Well, we did have a match over the weekend in Atlanta, as Valer had mentioned. I had a good weekend as well, by the way. I didn't really do anything. But that's all right. Get to hang out, watch some soccer, watch Nashville SC play Atlanta during the day for sure. Which, I mean, and we had Chattanooga, we had Open Cup as well. Those matches just kind of happened. Do you think we'll remember like this stretch? Is this the most boring thing that has happened this entire season? Was these two matches? I got a question. Like, are those the two most boring matches that we've watched so far?
If you look at it as a two-match stretch, I will agree with you. Yes, I will say the New England opener was tough watch.
Well,
uh,
yeah, I would say the only thing with the New England opener is you understood like sort of like an Open Cup match. Like this is not going to be the starting 11,
yeah,
so it
yeah,
was
that's
like
fair. That's fair.
hard to read into it. But I think that the Chattanooga match absolutely a snooze fest. But the Atlanta match, I found it interesting. I don't know that I would necessarily call it entertaining, but I think that the watching the way that that second half played out, which we'll get into later, I think could be informative of where the team is heading next. So I found the Atlanta match interesting, if not particularly exciting.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, yeah, and obviously we're gonna get into both the Open Cup match and the Atlanta match into more detail in the second segment. But even just looking at the results around the league and kind of just everything, in between those two matches as well, it's kind of starting to seem like we are at that point of the season where the table is not going to change as much as we expect. It is where it is, right? Like you have your really good teams in the East, like your Columbus, your Miamis that are kind of sitting up top there. You have your teams at the bottom that are definitely probably not going to move out from the bottom, and teams like Montreal and DC. Then you have us kind of in the middle where we expected to be at the current moment, getting a draw to Atlanta, not having a terrific match against Chattanooga. Do you agree with me in the fact that do we even need to play the rest of the season? Can we just get to the end and this is where we're going to be?
What, you don't want to play like a team that Nashville SC has played a million times in August while the heat of Joe Spark is just like making you want to wish you were just dead a little bit. You don't want to do that. That's
He says
That's
he
crazy.
not
says from
that's
the press box.
not necessary.
It's not me. I'm
Oh
special.
yeah, he.
It's you. Yeah, this is for you, normal people.
Which I got a
Um,
question, Valere, for Atlanta. Were you in the press box for Atlanta?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
were with a friend specifically, like one of his first away trips ever, and you still decided to ditch him and go to the press box?
He didn't go to the game. He doesn't care about
Oh,
soccer.
he didn't go to the game.
No, he didn't go with me to Atlanta for a game. It's a friend who doesn't watch soccer. Why would he go? No, I, no. But I will say. I mean, Steven, I think your point makes sense, though. I mean, it's kind of 11 games into the season. It's shaping up. I do think there's still room for like a colossal fall, or like maybe for example, Atlanta fires their coach and they get maybe a little bit of a bounce and start climbing up the table a little bit. I do think there's quality in some of those teams lower in the table that could be kind of that could push them a little bit higher.
yeah, I mean, it is one of the expansion of the playoffs makes things not feel as important.
Hmm.
But if you do look at the table, there's plenty of room for teams to move around still. And all it takes is one major injury for most of these MLS teams for their entire seasons to change. And so, in Atlanta's case, if their roster starts playing like the roster that costs what Atlanta rosters plays, even a little bit, then they're going to find themselves, chasing down the pack pretty easily. But I think looking at the table, if you looked at it right now and said that would be the playoffs, I think a lot of people would say I wouldn't be surprised by that. I am interested. I do think that there are some storylines out there that are worth following. Will Miami, now that they're not playing in, now they're not playing in Champions League anymore, like, will they like turn the Jets on and start to run away in the league a little bit? Will Vancouver have any Champions League hangover? Like what they're doing and that they're playing well both in the league and in Champions League at the same time very rarely happens in MLS. And if they don't win, or even if they do win, will there be a hangover that affects them? Because again, nobody predicted them to be as good as they are. So how much of this is pyrite and how much of this is like true going forward? I think we all agree that they're the real deal, but like it takes something to sustain that over the course of the season. So there's some big questions out there. There's big questions around Nashville, but I think kind of looking at it, I don't think you'd be totally surprised other than how bad LA Galaxy is and how good Vancouver is. I think everything else kind of seems about where folks are kind of expecting.
Yeah, in the 615 predictions, I went back and I found out and remembered that I picked Vancouver to be last in the West, which is currently not the case. So this is why you should not follow my opinions when it comes to any sort of soccer related type of things. But I do have an opinion about something, and I want to bring this up. I know this will be kind of probably some sort of small conversation, a topic. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Valera to Out, Steven Edition. A segment. This is a segment, podcast within a podcast called Valera to Out. Thank you so much for joining. Uh, Look, we went and played Atlanta, as we stated, on Saturday. Very easy trip to make, about a 3.5 hour drive to make it down there. Valera's mentioned it was probably one of the worst showings when it comes to Nashville fans and supporters that did specifically exist down there. And I think you have started to see some sort of, decline in some ways in supporter participation all around. I'm not even going to say just specifically um, in in just one group particular. I think it's in the back line in totality. This show started off as a supporters a show for supporters by supporters. Not all of us are cool like Valair. A couple of us are still supporters in the way that we represent the team. Obviously, I would be a lot more involved in the supporters culture and everything if I still lived there. I absolutely would, because I love seeing it grow. But it takes participation from everybody, and that's what I want to say, is that the more people that do participate, the less work it is for the people that do put so much time and so much energy into it. As I'm talking to some of these supporters, it's May and they're already drained. They're already done based on the amount of work that they have to do, the amount of work going on. So if you are able to contribute in any way, shape, or form when it comes to being able to chant a little bit extra during matches, being at tailgates, being able to participate, going to these away watch parties, going to away games. Clay and Valair and I, like, we're still going to go to multiple away games this season, even though, like, we're not as particularly fully engaged into the supporter culture like we were. And honestly, I got to be honest, like, all three of us have put in the work when it comes to that supporter culture already. Valair literally started a charity through that supporter culture, like, specifically. Clay was a part of the trust and all that type of stuff with me, and obviously I did my work and stuff as well.
I mean, we were
So
president and vice president, and then of the roadies, and then I helped La Regatta start. So like we were all involved. But I agree. I also think that there doesn't necessarily need to be this massive course correction either. I mean, if the team keeps playing like it is, people will come back, and I think that that is something to keep in mind. I want to kind of be a little bit more hopeful. I was a little bit caught off guard. The announced attendance last night was like 18,000 something, right? Um, and we know that that's based on season ticket sales. But if we extrapolate that, that means we've lost 5,000 in season tickets from where it was a few years ago. If they're saying that that number is based on season ticket sales, that means we've lost 5,000 season tickets. And I would imagine a good lot of those season tickets are the cheapest ones that are in the supporter section. And
right.
so, you like winning doesn't cure everything, but it does help. And so the hope is that maybe people start seeing this team, start seeing. And I will say this: Nashville is starting to do a little bit more in terms of like trying to keep teams and trying to keep the general public informed of what's going on. I think because they've realized they've lost a little bit of that. I see a billboard every day that says if Nashville won on my way to Murfreesboro, driving from Antioch, and so I'm hopeful that like as more people understand what's going on and the team hopefully keeps winning, we'll see more people get back into the fold, because it was only a couple of years ago where you know you never had to worry about finding someone to take your seats for a game because someone always wanted them. So it will be interesting, but we've kind of run a little bit long on this front. So we've got ratings and reviews, and we have 2 reviews. So anybody that puts in a 5-star review, we will read it on the show. So the first review, Stephen, you're going to like this. It is from Alex William Wynn, who says, Steven, I love the fall joke. You had me thinking I clicked the wrong episode. So, Steven, I hope that feels good to you. And we have another review. And, Steven, I'm going to have you read this one. I just dropped it in the Slack. So go ahead and have at it.
Well, first of all, do you want to, before I do read it, as I don't have Slack pulled up, one of the, okay, well, now I do have it up, and no, I'm not reading this. I'm not doing it. I'm
No.
absolutely not reading this.
We've made
It's the rule.
it's a 5-star review. You have to read it.
I don't. I'm not the one. I don't see it. It's not popping up on my Slack. I'm
Steven,
not.
read the review.
It's on,
Read the review.
it's on there. You have to read it.
It's the rule.
They gave us 5 stars. Who was it from, Clay? You know?
It is from. Let me see. I had it pulled up. Now you're asking me. I sent him a message to
Okay.
apologize for not getting it on last week's show.
Well, then it's Steve. Steven, you go ahead and read it, and then we'll say where it's from.
It's from the Stew and SC. Steven, go ahead. Have at it.
All right. Okay. Well, apparently this review is from somebody else, but speaking through me specifically. Hello, my name is Stephen Robinson. I have something that I need to get off my chest. I can no longer keep up this mask, this facade. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with a heavy heart that I must tell you. I don't know what that word says. That's right. I have decided
No,
that
read it, Steven.
No,
you know
read
what it
the
says.
review.
Read it. This is
it
the
says
rule.
it says I am a Chattahooligan, which, by the way, you guys are going to cut this up. Fine, whatever. That's right. I have decided that Chattanooga FC is now my favorite soccer team in North America. As a former FC fan, I am familiar with my team losing in PKs and felt right at home watching them get knocked out of the U.S. Open Cup and decided to toss my hat in the ring. With that being said, I can only truly and wholeheartedly support one blue team at a time. So not only will I be forsaking Nationals blue and gold, but I will also be saying goodbye to the Blues. That's right. As of today, I'm no longer a fan of Chelsea Football Club and will instead be supporting the historic and honorable Manchester United, the Red Devil. This is stupid. None of that is true. That is a review from another person. I understand that this is going to be cut up and used.
Valaire, did the review not say my name is Stephen Robinson?
I heard Stephen Robinson. I
Are
heard
you
Stephen
calling our
speak. I
reviewers
heard his
liars,
name.
Stephen?
Yeah.
We don't think
Also,
you're
we've
lying.
had evidence. We've had evidence for weeks now about this Chattanooga thing. This is not a new thing. So I'm glad you're finally opening up to us as your friends and co-host. Thank you,
So
Stephen.
My
anyway.
issue with this now is that I truly hate the floodgate of reviews that have now opened up because of this.
Shout out to the Stew, because we've been trying to get people to do this for like a year, and someone finally did it, and did it in a very eloquent and wonderful way. So shout out to him.
I mean, yeah, shout out
And
to
thank
you.
you, both of you, for the reviews. Both of the people who did submit
Yeah.
5 stars review. We really
5-star
I
appreciate
do
it.
review. We'll read
appreciate
them
one
on
of
the
them being
show.
a compliment towards me and then the other one absolutely dogging me just right at the following aspect. 10 out of 10. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
So
We got to move on quickly from here. Clay, let's talk about the big thing that happened last night. Obviously, friend of the show, has always been a fan favorite for ours. I'll let you kind of lead this, Clay.
yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly. We don't have a prognosis yet, but Taylor Washington did go down with an injury. It could be serious, and we will know more this week. Just gotta. I've done my ACL twice. I know exactly how that feels. If it is something like that, it's not a short road to recovery. There's currently a player that's been out, Tyler Boyd, with a similar injury. So we hope it's not that. We hope it's something that's a little bit easier to come back from. But he is, the all-time leader in Open Cup appearances. I don't think he's the all-time leader in appearances anymore, but he's among the top 2 or 3 in appearances. So the only Nashville SC original really left in the playing and coaching staff. So just all of our best thoughts out to Taylor. We're thinking about you, and hopefully we'll see you on the field again this season.
Yeah, I think that Clay put that in the best possible way. We love you, Taylor. We'll be, hoping for the best for you. Obviously, we love you being around here. But we have 2 matches to talk about, and we need to talk about those more in specifics. And we're going to do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Of course, make sure you're checking out 615 Soccer as well, 615soccer.com. Spell it out. Would love to have you join, be a part of the family. Being farther away here in DC, it's a lot of fun for me to be on the Discord doing the match day discussions with everybody, since I can't be there in person with all of you. Also, a bunch of articles, a lot of Huntsville stuff going on at the current moment. There's a Huntsville mailbag that's awesome. So please make sure you do check out 615soccer.com.
By the way, just real quick, I want to shout out Eric Burke, who was at the game last night. And he wanted to make sure that you knew, Stephen, that he came all the way from Australia to go to a game at Geodis, but you couldn't make it from Virginia.
What is this episode? What is happening here?
But Steven, aren't you going to be there Saturday?
I will be there Saturday. That is actually true. I will be there Saturday.
Good job. 615 Soccer. Please subscribe if you don't already. Your paid subscription helps us keep everything going, so we really appreciate it. I think everybody has noticed the level of support, the level of coverage Nashville SC has locally by local folks is higher than most MLS teams actually get. And I'm not just saying this because I'm involved in this, but if you go and see and look around, having Ben Wright and having our show and having all these things happening, they don't just come out of nowhere. They come with your support. So thank you for those who have been supporting. And look, this 615 Soccer ordeal happened. The original baby of that was the Patreon supporters of Farm Soccer, however small that was. And it's gone bigger, and we want to keep it going. So please add in the $3 or $7 a month. It means the world to us. And for those who have been already doing it, thank you so much.
Yeah, it does help keep the lights on, and also please help us pay for Ben Wright's penalty taking lessons as well. It's something that we're really trying to work on with him. So please make sure you do help us pay for those. Ben Wright needs it. But look, we have two matches to talk about. Let's talk about. Let's just talk about the Open Cup first. I feel like that's probably the best way to go about it because that's the one that's going to be most recent in our memory. Nashville moving on in the Open Cup with a 1-0 win against the Chattanooga Red Wolves, with a goal coming from striker Josh Bauer, which is always good to see. I mean, it was a squad rotation of a match, I guess.
I think I'll start with this, and I said this in my review. What do I call it? I don't call it review. Instant reaction. What am I talking about? I think the main storyline here is the fact that players who either haven't gotten any minutes this season or have gotten very few minutes were able to play almost 90 minutes for most of them, honestly. So I think that's the big thing here is that guys like Brian Acosta, Brian Schwalke, Taylor Washington, unfortunately, we talked about the injury, but even guys like Applewhite and Perez being able to start a match, Till Bunbury being able to start a match, these guys, a lot of them just haven't been as involved. They've been on the bench, but that's really it. Maybe they'll get the odd substitution here and there. So having them play and I know it's a couple divisions down team, but they played very aggressively, Chattanooga, and they played very physically, as you would expect from a team of that level. So I think it's a good sort of way to get your season started a little bit of, maybe get a kicking a little bit, reminds you of that, week in, week out performances. And for somebody like, these players missed time due to injury or, if you're a goalkeeper and Joe Willis is doing well, you're probably not going to get minutes. But it was good to see Nashville debuts out there as well. These are players who were signed, and able to finally get some minutes. But I think the biggest positive is that Chris Applewhite becomes the first homegrown to start for Nashville SC and the youngest player ever to start for Nashville SC. Now, if you remember at the very beginning of the season, game one, Corcoran was the youngest player ever to start for Nashville SC. I just say FC SC, but he that record was beaten 10 games after by Chris Applewhite, and I think that's the biggest testament first for BJ Callahan and this Nashville SC 2.0 situation that's going on, but also testament to Chris Applewhite and how much of a work he's put in to start for Nashville SC at 17. Because because I don't know, if you had told me 2 years ago that a 17-year-old would start for Nashville SC, I would have been like, probably not, probably never, because Gary Smith just didn't do that. So, so it's a little bit of a different era, I think. And these are some of the first signs that we're seeing of it.
Yeah, and I do think like the one of the primary takeaways I have from that game is that of the players that did actually take advantage of the opportunity that the night presented, it was the younger guys. Like I think Corcoran had a pretty good game. Lord knows he was kicked
Yeah,
enough. I mean, he was fouled like crazy in that game, and I think I didn't even notice Applewhite for a good chunk of it, which is generally tells you one how defensively Chattanooga was set up at times, but also how good Applewhite was because you didn't really even clock that he was out there because there wasn't a lot to do. So I will say my like I am the only like real concern I have coming out of there. Like it's an open cup. It's these guys look like they've never played together because they haven't. Like these are things that happen. But there are a number of players that aren't currently in the starting lineup that an open cup start presents an opportunity, and I don't think that those players capitalized on that. There's shout out to the NSC or the 615 Discord, which has a match day discussion. So if you're sitting at home and want to like keep up with people watching the match, you can become a capo member. You can have, I think, both members. You can be on the Discord, and you can have that sort of conversation with all of us during the match. And I had joked in there that Teal Bunbury performance is what people act like Teal Bunbury plays every week.
yeah,
And I think you could say that for that type of performance from a lot of guys. I think it was a real opportunity. I mean, Schaffelberg had a not a great game against Atlanta, and if Cossum were to come out and have a really good game, it would make the decision a little bit interesting on the weekend. I don't necessarily think he would have won his spot back, but it would make the decision interesting. But you sit there and you watch a guy like Cossum, and he did not have a good game. He had a couple good moments, but he didn't do anything in there to justify moving back into the starting 11. And those are the types of things that I was trying to watch for in the game. And so if there's any real letdown, it is just seeing guys who haven't been playing not really do anything to justify getting more playing time, and that's the one thing that really sticks out to me about the game.
I just think like the other thing is that just you would want more goals, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
really as a team. I think Nashville City would want more goals, but look, it's the first round, and there were about 7 people there as fans. So like, it matters. It's not that it doesn't matter, but sometimes getting a win and just rolling up your sleeves and just getting it done. Sometimes that's all you need to do. And the word I used a lot last night was enough. They did enough to get through, and that's that.
Yeah, I mean, look, and obviously BJ had confidence that his team was going to be moving on, even by the subs that he made. He didn't bring on Hani, he didn't bring on Andy Nahar, he didn't bring on Eddie. He brought in other people that kind of needed those minutes just to kind of be a part of the squad, and that would be defensive help. So it was scrappy. It wasn't the prettiest win, but you win and move on. And obviously, the match that you have the next Open Cup match is the one that's going to be the most important out of them. So you move on, take the result for what it is. It's still our best chance at a trophy this year. Let's move on and focus on what we have going on.
any Open Cup match where you can keep your main players on the bench is a good Open Cup match.
That's true. And I'll say this just on that point that Stephen you made about the trophy, best chance of a trophy. The club is very aware of that. This is the first time I think that I've heard definitive like wording from both the players and the coaching staff about this opportunity specifically and how aware they are of it. Not that Gary Smith didn't do that. It's just he's never explicitly come out and said, this is our best chance of a cup. We want to get this cup so we can go to CONCACAF and uh, play continental soccer. But both Jonathan Perez, BJ Callahan, and we got a chance to talk to Mike Nason, I think is how you pronounce his last name, the assistant coach. All 3 of them said those words pretty much verbatim. And I mean, they are very aware the club, the team is working towards that goal of winning. And I think that's important because it's rarely ever put out that clearly in for us in the media from the people within the club.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, like the last time Nashville made a run in the U.S. Open Cup, it was at a time of really extreme fixture congestion, and you could understand prioritizing Nashville's place in the league. And they lost that open. I mean, they were on good. That's where there was a big delay in Miami, and the winner would have gone to, I think, the quarterfinal. Is that what it was? And Nashville just didn't come out well enough. The time before that was against Orlando in a quarterfinal, but that was even before Nashville was in Geodis. So this is like the first time where, one, it lines up well for Nashville. It makes sense for Nashville to push for it. Obviously, it's a different competition. So, yeah, this is like the first time where it really feels like they can fully devote the roster to it.
And we potentially have Orlando in the quarterfinal again coming up, so that'll be a lot of fun. We'll see what happens between the Rowdies and
to go to the quarterfinal.
Yeah, we'll see what happens between the Rowdies and Orlando today. Hopefully, Rubens Pacius can score a bunch of goals for us and then not be able to play against us in that Open Cup match. But we also had Atlanta over the weekend, 1-1 draw for Nashville over the weekend in Atlanta. Who scored that goal for us? Anybody remember?
Yes, it was a defender. Does that ring any bells?
Oh, was it Dan Lovitz?
It was Dan Lovitz.
Yay,
Good job,
all right.
Steven. You watch the team you cover. Well done, buddy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I am here for that with a goal from Dan Lovitz. How do you guys want to start off talking about this?
Let me say this. Let me take a general look at this, and maybe this is a little too philosophical for what we do in the second segment, but I do want to talk about the perception of these two clubs and what I saw.
Way too philosophical for the second segment, but please continue.
Like, I think there's something to be said about when Nashville SC entered the league in 2020. Now, Atlanta United were looked at as the top echelon of MLS. They are the model club that everybody tries to emulate in terms of expansion. They did everything right. And, everything since then has been disappointing, to say the least, for Atlanta. Fast forward to this year, 2025, and Atlanta spends what Nashville SC hasn't even been able to spend in the 5 years of their existence in MLS. Atlanta spends more than that in one window to bring in world-class players and a coach as well who has won MLS Cup. And those world-class players and the coach sat back and defended like it was a Stoke City team from 2009 against a Nashville team led by BJ Callahan and nobody over $6-7 million price tag on. I think that is something that is deeper than just this game or this rivalry. I think that is something that is an MLS thing that needs to be studied a little bit more and talked about a little bit more. But I will go back to this game and this fixture specifically, where I would say that Nashville SC has made some great sort of steps just in general to be not only able to compete with Atlanta United, to go to Atlanta United's state-of-the-art facility and play that way and force themselves into onto the pitch like they did. So it is a draw. It is a 1-1 draw. I just don't give it more credit than what it is, but I do think some things need to be sort of looked at and analyzed, and that is one thing that Nashville SC just hasn't happened before.
I was sitting there and I was just thinking about my first thoughts as going through this, watching this Atlanta match, since we're now doing philosophical conversation in the second segment, was, oh my God, did we actually watch this for 5+ years? Like, this is what we went through as a team for 5+ years as Atlanta. Just let's go up and try and get a goal and sit back and literally do nothing and hold on to. We did that for 5+ years.
I would say at home, Nashville SC played a lot better than Atlanta played at home, to be fair. But your point stands. I mean, I looked at it and I was like, this is starting to look a little familiar, a little too familiar. Like, I know this play style. I've seen this before. But it's surprising that's not how Ronnie Dyla plays, the coach of Atlanta. So, like, it was not something I expected to see from them, especially not at home. But I think a lot of it had to do with what Nashville did and what Nashville forced them to do.
I agree to a certain extent. I also think that Atlanta's in desperate need of positive results. And they have, like, I hear your point about Atlanta's got a better roster on paper. They've spent more money than Nashville has. But as I've seen that happen with another team that I follow a lot, where they spend a lot of money and it means absolutely nothing. And so, like, I hear that, but Atlanta is what their record says they are. And so, Atlanta right now is a bad team. And Nashville right now is not a bad team. And Atlanta was in a situation where they got. I imagine if they played that game again, they wouldn't let the field tilt get as bad as it was in the second half. I think that that was kind of the game states that had to do a lot with that. But Atlanta's in desperate need of getting a result. And I think that the way it played out, I think Ronnie would be fairly fine with a draw with the way that game played out in the second half. And so I understand that from like we need to get a building block here to try and get to the final form of whatever this team is, as if I were an Atlanta fan. That being said, um, Atlanta is not a good team. I do think that this game was indicative of some of the things that Nashville is going to be dealing with for large chunks of the season, which is trying to figure out breaking down a team, trying to figure out how to get your offensive players doing things. Like, it's great that they're, because it's a goal from a fullback last night. It's great that there are 11 goal contributions from fullbacks this year, but too many of those are goals. like, um, Nashville needs to be finding ways to get their offensive players also involved in scoring goals in these types of games, because there are going to be lots of games this year where teams are going to cede uh, possession to Nashville, and that's what Nashville wants. They want the ball. They want to play with the ball. And so, for as good as Chicago was in terms of like Nashville breaking down a team, they weren't able to do that in Atlanta. And I think we're going to see some of those peaks and valleys as the team tries to figure out playing consistently at a certain level.
Yeah, I think he probably looked at that match against Chicago and was just like, "Oh, if I do a high press or a high line against this team, I'm going to lose and they are going to score 5+ goals on us." So they sat back, and that's exactly what they did, and they did it successfully. And because we didn't
Yeah, the goal they
necessarily
scored was
know
kind
the
of fluky, but that's what having quality has. I mean, that's
yeah,
just part of it.
and like I think you're right, Clay. I think there's going to be a lot for this team to try to figure out. Like when you do have the ball and we are in possession specifically, and you don't have the ability to go over the top like you've been doing so well at this entire season, how do you break down a defense like that?
Well, and it goes back to I mean, we've brought up this conversation several times on this show, but like Jacob Schaffelberg, right? Like against Chicago, one of the three best players on the field. Like they just had nothing for him. He was involved in so much. Then against an Atlanta team that you're going to have to build stuff out of possession a little bit more, wasn't quite there. Um, and so trying to get these guys to be more versatile and more in different situations will make this team better. And so having games like that Atlanta game, even if you don't get a win out of it, is a net positive, because you've now like been in that situation and didn't lose, like weren't punished for it. I just, it's a learning experience, these sorts of games. But a
And I
draw on the
do
road in
think,
MLS, generally speaking, always a good thing.
and just in terms of expectations, I mean, in February, if you said Nashville SC will go to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and play like that and end up with a point, everybody would have bitten your hands off for it. But the expectations change as the season gets moving, right? And what we've seen is this, like Clay said, Atlanta's not very good, and Nashville is actually pretty all right. And I think that's where the expectation of like, well, Nashville should have won that match. That only happens because Nashville did better the matches beforehand. If that makes sense. So also, I found it interesting that Nashville gets only their second draw of the season in 11 matches. This team, and since the New England game, has been either going for it or losing kind of badly. So it's weird. It's a weird mixture. But I think that's kind of what this system is, and I think most Nashville fans are okay with it for now.
Again, it's just really funny to see the dichotomy. Like I knew, like when there was a new Nashville SC era, that there would be one. Not this dichotomy specifically between like let's have the most draws for a record in an MLS season compared to never mind. Now we're only gonna have two in 11 matches like going on. It is kind of crazy. Couple other things I think we should bring up though. The team definitely did perform better in the second half. I think some adjustments that BJ didn't make, uh, particularly to try to draw and drum up some offense, did very well. Again, set pieces are seemingly terrific. Daniel Lovett's making the plea to be a part of the attack for corners is continuing to work out, which I think is the funniest thing so far to happen this season. Um, and then I think a player that we specifically have to talk about is Jesse Palacios, with his probably best performance of the season, being able to stop Miguel Almiron and Latte Lot in a very fantastic way. I was playing FIFA the other day and they have him as like a 50 pace, which makes zero sense to me. Like he is, I would be curious like how quick, like in comparison to some of these other players, he actually is. Because the way he's able to chase down an attacker is insane. But we were not expecting this from him whatsoever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, including myself, had Josh Bauer ahead of him in the pecking order, really. But then when you look at what he's able to perform since coming in, and in no way Nashville's defense has been perfect. But look, if you're looking at one guy's performance, he was my man of the match in Atlanta, and it's not just because of his defensive attributions, which contributions, which were great. His he was able to cut off all of these sort of counterattacking that Atlanta were so heavily reliant on for large stretches of this game. And, he would cut them out and shut them off so quickly, so efficiently. But also going forward, he was able to be a little bit of a problem for Atlanta. I think him and Jack Mayer both need to be praised for this. Actually, they were driving when Clay, when you were talking about like not being able to break down a team, those those drives from center backs or left backs or people who don't usually drive open up things and open up runs for other players. And that's what him and Jack Mayer were doing. And he was doing very well. We saw him higher up the pitch. I mean, almost to the Atlanta penalty box multiple times during open play. And then the last thing I'll say about him is that he's a threat on set pieces. I mean, he's already gotten a goal this season. And look, if Nashville is anything, one thing they do well is their attacking set pieces are pretty good compared to everybody else in MLS. So yeah, I think he's surprised a lot of people. He's definitely surprised me, and I think he deserves a lot of praise for stepping in for Defender of the Year 3 times, Walker Zimmerman, and Nashville not looking that much worse without him.
It's interesting. Like we're going to talk about this in the next segment, but Palacios and Eddie Tagseth are kind of turning the page fully on Nashville SC's reputation with international players. Because, like, I'm sure if we're all being completely honest with ourselves, when we saw that signing, we're like, we'll see what happens. Because in the back of our heads, we're thinking about, you know, Miguel Nazari. We're thinking about Brian Bekelis. We're thinking about, oh man, I already spaced on his name. We're thinking about the failures in the international market
The
that
Uruguayan
Nashville brought in over
guy,
the first 2 or 3 years. And
Pinheiro,
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 Rodrigo
Pinheiro.
Pinheiro.
I had Palmero in
Oh,
my
there
head
you
because I'm
go.
in
Ake
baseball mode,
Loba.
but but yeah, Ake Loba, another one. So like we're thinking about these failures that they've made, specifically in Central and South American signings over the years, which is totally not fair to a player when they're coming in. But it's like based on what we've seen, and I think that this year is the so far, knock on wood, is sort of the best advertisement of Nashville SC's like improving scouting because Palacios absolutely looks like he belongs as a starter in MLS, and he's going to be a guy that will, when Nashville's fully healthy, will be competing with Jack Mayer for the other center back spot.
Yeah, and we, again, as Clay mentioned, we are going to talk about that a little bit in the next segment just because there was an extension of our GM and an elevation of his role. We got to talk about that, and we got to preview Charlotte, even though we did that a month ago. And we're going to do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. We are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Of course, 615soccer.com. Be sure to check that out as well. And then go to pharmasoccer.com. If you are looking to have merch and stuff like that, we didn't see any on Tuesday during the Chattanooga game. That's probably why we didn't score 7 goals. So please make sure you do get some PharmaSoccer merch, as it has been historically known. If you wear Pharma merch to a match, Nashville scores 7 goals. So please make sure you check that out.
I've worn Pharma merch to 3 matches. All 3 are wins.
Hey, Clay, aren't you supposed to get me some Pharma merch?
If I'd ever run into you at a time when it was convenient, yes, I've got all of your stuff sitting literally in the living room of
I'll
my
come
house.
pick it
Oh,
up.
I can do it this weekend too. Because I'll be in town. I can
Let's
get
go
it.
pick it up. Let's go pick it up, Steven.
Okay.
It's time for us to finally wear the thing that we've been telling people to buy.
Yes. Yeah, if you can actually, you know what? Send me a reminder because I'm not sure I'll be at the house on Saturday. We're just doing business right here on the radio. Send me a reminder. I will have it for you at the pub
Okay.
on Saturday
Thanks.
I do love
Thank you.
I love the fact that Valaire was so before we started recording this, Valaire was just like, hey, let's make this one quick, and then decided let's make a pickup time for
Hey.
our merchandise.
Look, people want
Peel
to
back
see
the
this,
curtain.
okay? I don't think so. But hey, let's make a pact right now, the 3 of us, to wear Pharma clothing for the recording of next episode next week, okay?
Bet.
Do we agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sure.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Thank you.
There's not really a ton to bring up MLS score wise, so I'm not going to do that. Vancouver's still sitting their entire team and still winning is insane, by the way. They just decided to sit their entire team, still won. Whatever, fine. But we do have to talk about some news within Nashville when it comes to Mike Jacobs getting a extension, I believe, until 2028. Is that the extension time? And kind of getting elevated to president of field soccer operations is the title. Game, whatever, something like that. It's the same role that he's been doing with a different title.
It's because they split. So Ian went into this weird like overseeing role, and so they've split the business and soccer into 2 fully separate ones. So, which is kind of how it operated, but now it's just on paper operating the way it operated practically.
Right. Which we obviously, Mike Jacobs did get a ton of criticism during the offseason based on how the roster was structured, where the team was currently at, just because, I mean, let's be honest, we didn't have a lot of money to spend in the offseason to be able to get to where we're at. A few, again, we talked about it in the previous segment of a couple decisions, player decisions that were not correct. And we did not know specifically if Mike Jacobs had the ability to carry Nashville SC into this new era. Obviously, we're still pretty... Huh?
I was going to make a joke, but go ahead.
No, please make the joke. This is a time for
Well,
joke.
I was just saying, as both of you know, Mike Jacobs spent a large portion of his life in Evansville, Indiana. And as both of you also know, Evansville, Indiana is a gambling town. There's a casino there. and Mike Jacobs last year, around this time, made one of the biggest gambles probably of his professional career in that he fired a basically successful MLS coach and elected to go a different direction. And the roster was looking in a weird spot. Obviously, they had to wait 13 games to actually get the head coach in place, which was a little bit too long, which we very much criticized on this show. And he had to get things right. And he did. Like the biggest questions that people had going into the offseason, rebuilding the midfield. What are you going to do with your big money players? How is your international scouting going to look? Like, are you going to be successful bringing people in from outside the league? And right now, you're going to put a check mark next to basically all of those. Like, he did absolutely like he has answered absolutely every criticism that people have had of Nashville SC on the field, and done so with flying colors. And so, like, the only option was to give him an extension, because, like, you couldn't ask any more so far into this season, um, than he's delivered. Like,
I do
it's a great job.
I do wonder, and this is based on no information, so please don't take it like in a different way. But I do wonder, when was the decision made and when it was announced, and I wonder how far in between that is, because sometimes these things happen behind the scenes, maybe 6 months ago, and it's not the right time to announce it because the proof just wasn't there, especially when you have fans. And I think rightly so, fans were pretty angry with Jacobs. And even on our show, I would like to think that when we came and criticized his moves or some things, that we were being fair. And I think he's a not he's a man of a lot of words, and can I think he will know himself as well that sometimes he made some mistakes. But at the same time, just like we criticized him last year, we have to give him credit, and that's what we're doing right now. And I think it's the whole front office. Of course, it's a team effort. I don't think it's just him, but he is at the end of the day responsible for those decisions, because if things go bad, he is the one fans are calling for his name. So it's a really it's a really positive thing that he's been able to turn things around and get a second chance with Nashville SC, something that just doesn't happen in sports. Even with fans, I mean, changing fans' perspective in sport, it's borderline impossible. It doesn't really happen. You get a reputation and then you stick to it. But, he's been able to kind of switch that around, and giving BJ a lot of liberty and a lot of responsibility has paid off so far. That said, I don't think this is the final product. I don't think I think there's still a lot of work. There's a lot of NSC players out of contract next year. I think that's going to be a big, big transfer window. But if you're looking at Nashville SC 2.0, this is their first season. This is a really good first season so far for Nashville SC 2.0.
Yeah, am I sold that we're going to win a championship within Mike Jacobs, contract exist? No, I'm not sold, but I do. Do I feel like that he has done enough to continue to see Nashville SC into the new era? Absolutely, I do, and I think that's the case.
If Nashville SC would have let him go, there would have been no shortage of takers within MLS. He, like, he's done. There would have been no shortage of people wanting to hire that guy.
Absolutely. All right. We did have a mailbag question that we do have to get through. This is from one of my favorite people, Paul Wizard. Paul Weisert. How important are the next two MLS games given the number of away games in June and the table positions of Red Bulls New York and Charlotte? I'm going to answer this question with something I said in the first segment of I literally think we could probably get to the end of the season and we're still going to be in the same place that we currently are. So I'd say no personally, but I don't know. That's just me.
So I think it's very important to get home wins. I think maybe not in the grand scheme of things at the table wise, but look, we just sat here and talked about 5,000 or 6,000 fewer season ticket sales. We just sat here and talked about atmosphere and supported culture and blah 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 this episode. And if you want to improve those, you have to win at home. Now, it doesn't mean you go and lose every game away, but away losses and away draws are generally not as detrimental as home losses and home draws. So to me, when I'm looking at a team that is entertaining, who just scored 7 goals at home a week ago, I think you want to keep that going. You want to keep that momentum, because that's what generates conversations within Nashville for how to get people in. That's what really sticks with people. Because I'll be honest with you guys, if 30,000 people show up at Geodis Park, maybe 15,000 of those are watching the away games, maybe. So let's be realistic here in terms of how important the home slate is.
Not only that, Nashville SC's best squad, the best team they've had, 2021. What do we all know about the 2021 team? They were unbeaten at home. Like, it's the one thing that they haven't been able to recapture at Geodis. They've been able to recapture a lot from the early days of NSC, but they have not been able to recapture home form. And if you are good at home, you will be a good team. And that 2021 team, I mean, They went out on penalties to a team that played for MLS Cup. So like they could have easily, they didn't play for MLS. They lost to the team that won, a team that Nashville
Yeah,
beat.
and
But either way, what you could say is that the home form is what carries it, and not only that, you need confidence. This is a young team. You need to be putting results away to get some confidence. And there is a team out there that Nashville SC has never beaten, and that's
yeah, and I think Red Bulls too. Yeah, and but Charlotte as well. I mean, I
yeah.
know Nashville has beaten them, but just to go back to Paul's question, it is. I mean, Charlotte are right there with Nashville SC. They're 2 points ahead. Red Bulls are what, 2 points below. So I mean, Steven, when you're talking about that range of teams, right? Let's say like 5 to 9, those are two teams fighting for that range as well right now. And I think in that context, having them at home, and I asked BJ about this because the Charlotte game, and this is a good segue to our next thing, but Charlotte game, I think the players are going to have a little bit to prove when Charlotte comes to Yours Park on Saturday. Because I feel like that didn't end the way they intended to go. They played really, really an incredible half, the first half, and the second half, Charlotte just took over. And then there was the Walker injury and all that, and then Nashville ended up losing. So I think with a little bit of chip on your shoulder, maybe something similar about the Red Bulls as well. Because look, the Red Bulls just came out and punched Nashville SC in the jaw, but Nashville SC tried to recover and it was just too late in Red Bull Arena. Let's see if they can do it at home.
Well, let's talk about Charlotte, as again we played them 3 weeks ago. I don't think there's anything new to talk about with this team specifically when it comes to previewing them, or is there?
They can further add to the weirdness around Wilfred Zaha if Nashville can make him have a bad match.
Oh
Because he had that
God, it's
really
been
weird
so
social
much
media
fun.
post.
I love it. There needs to be more of a regular of players just coming out and telling the fans to shut up because it is fun. Like it's just a good time. And like Zaha has been, I love him in this league. This is why we need Balotelli in this league, by the way. Like I don't get it. Balotelli needs to be in this league. He just does. But I digress. We
And
play
look,
Charlotte.
Charlotte has had 4 losses this season. 2 of them were back to back in MLS before coming to Nashville SC. Now they did beat North Carolina Courage. No, that's not what they're called. North Carolina FC. Courage is their women's team.
Yeah, same stadium, same ownership.
Yeah, same stadium, same organization. But they did beat them 4-1. But they had to go all the way to extra time for that. Now they rotated heavily. I mean, if you thought Nashville rotated heavily, Charlotte rotated heavily on that North Carolina team. So I think that they have a point to prove as well, because 2 losses in a row is not a common thing for the Charlotte team, who is known for their sort of defensive acumen. So Columbus put 4 past them. And they lost to New England, who happen to be the most informed team in the world right now. I think there's a lot of back and forth, and technically, I guess this is one of 17 rivals of kind of rivals for Nashville SC. Maybe rivals. One day we'll be rivals, type of thing. So maybe there's a little bit more to it.
Well, let's give our plugs and predictions because Valera's got to go watch his team not make it to the Champions League final. So let's get through this really quick. Valera, why don't you start?
I was going to go a whole episode without mentioning it just because you made a comment last week and you mentioned it. So I don't even know. Arsenal 5, PSG 0. No, I'm just kidding. We should give prediction for both games, I guess.
No. We're gonna record. We're gonna record next week at our normal time.
You're right. I think Nashville SC is gonna pull this one through. I think it's gonna be a narrow win, but a win nonetheless. So I'll just say Nashville SC returns the favor and wins 2-1 against Charlotte at Geodis Park, with the goal scorers of Jacob Schaffelberg gets a goal, and let's say a Hani Mukhtar penalty goal. Yeah, because Sam Sawyer is going to give it to him. It's a mind games. You wouldn't know. And for me, just follow me at Valer Shabila, please. And like Steven said earlier, 615 Soccer. Support us in every way you can.
For me, you can follow me at Clay Lasol on Instagram and Twitter. You can also check out National Soccer Archive, which is sorely behind, and I'm working on it, but I do have other jobs. And then as for what to expect this weekend, I think I'm going to go 3-1 Nashville. I think Nashville gives up an early goal and then responds pretty big. Goals from Hani, from Surridge, and from Andy Nahar. We're going to just keep that fullback goal train rolling.
I'm excited to be in town for this match this weekend, so please come on up and say hi to me if you are in town. Excited to see the both of you as well. I'm going to go with a 4-3 win for Nashville. Nashville's going to go up 4 goals, 2 goals from Hani, 1 goal from Patrick Yazbek, and then another corner goal from Palacios. Yes.
Just a quick Charlotte note, just because we didn't mention, just because it's insane. The Charlotte Open Cup game yesterday, scoreless going into extra time. Then they score in the 97th. North Carolina scores in the 98th. And then Charlotte scores 3 times. 2 in like 119th and 123rd. Like, insane.
Well, that is my prediction, is that we go up 4-0 and then Zaha scores a hat trick, but does not overcome, and it's a 4-3 match.
I kind of hope that happens.
Oh.
I'm not gonna lie. That'll be fun to watch.
It would be fun. It would be fun, and we still get to win, and we see Zaha score a hat trick, which is fun. Again, thank you guys so much for listening to the episode. Sorry, went a little bit longer than we expected, but we definitely appreciate you listening. We'll be back next week where we have another 2-week match week to talk about next week. So please make sure you are tuning into that. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your week.